Nick went down.
Yes,
Unbelievable.
yes, that's actually.
And is now OOP, as they say in dog racing, out of picture in terms of the college football championship. There would be almost no way that these committee people, even if they bring back Condoleezza Rice and she accepts a bribe from Jose Suleiman, there would seem to be no way that you could somehow work Alabama back in the equation. Is there with 2 losses? And possibility that they would have 4 losses on the season. Well, you can't say that because they won those games. And your man Jimbo, what's he on? Like a 9-game losing streak? That's unbelievable. Jimbo Fisher.
I don't know how much they've lost in a row. They have not played well the entire year. Jimbo, like they're talking, his buyout's like $50 million, and they're considering. Like that's how bad it is.
Imagine that. $50 million they're going to give this cat to fail.
Go.
Wow. Did we all make some bad career choices? We should have just been failing college football coaches.
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
All right. We're all still here. That's the beauty of it. Morning, everybody, on a fine Thursday. Jeff DeForest, Mike Louie Lubitz, the Defo Show here in South Florida Live. And we're going to treat today's edition of the program as sort of a prelude to our Degenerate Friday show because we just got word, a late scratch of Dave Gurgle's Gurgley on the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. I will toss out for you trivia fanatics, and we appreciate you guys following this show. It's been over 25 years now that we've been doing the show. Started out of desperation, as a lot of good ideas are sprouted from desperation. Complete and total financial desperation was the reason that the Trivia Challenge got started. And it was originally known as the Sony Sports Showdown. And we had a friend that we used to see at the track, and he told me he had some marketing money from Sony. He said, hey, listen, come up with an idea, and we'll spend it. And it wasn't a ton of cash, but we certainly appreciated it. And we had been shut out. It was weird. There used to be a lot of politics and infighting in the South Florida racing scene, around the South Florida racing scene. And for some reason, we got shut out at the time by Gulfstream Park from a minor advertising package. It was the premier racetrack at the time. Hialeah was kind of starting to get the political shaft, and they were always getting the later dates. At that time, Lubie, there was a big battle on if you operated in January and February as a racetrack, naturally you were benefiting because the snowbird period was much more confined back in the day.
Yeah.
And then you had a little carryover into March and April, but that was known as the spring dates, and it was like a springboard to financial red ink. By comparison, I mean, to the January and February thing, which, it didn't matter what track was open. People were going to be going there because they loved the South Florida racing scene at the time. So Gulfstream had a marketing director who decided that the way to attract degenerate racing fans and breed new fans, if you will, was to have petting zoos and concerts of has-been rock bands that nobody wanted to hear anymore, that were completely irrelevant. And so he started doing that. And what used to happen was literally the bettors would trample these people on their way to the windows because they weren't moving. They would like pitch a tent in the back where, what would it be? Like Styx or, some band that were like, those guys are still alive. Unbelievable. Whoa, Vanilla Fudge. Unreal.
Those guys are still alive.
Sit me free. Why don't you? And you'd hear that on the backside while everybody else, the degenerate sickos like me were watching the races.
Oh, my God.
And literally, it would be like, I felt badly. You would like be trampling little kids on your way to get a bet in. So we're there at the petting zoo. Oh, look, a goat. The 10 ball ran like a goat. What are you talking about, kid? Get out of my way. I'm trying to get a bet down on the 11th here. So anyway, this guy, and his name was David Rovine, I believe. And why would that stick out? I'm getting like Mayo. I'm starting to like bring up things very easily where there was no grudge involved in this because I thought it was ridiculous at the time.
It was frustrated, yeah.
And Polyman and I were the only guys really outside of Eddie Kaplan and I guess Hank that mentioned horse racing, which was a big part. I mean, the South Florida sports scene wasn't comprised of the major sports fanfare that you get in a lot of other big cities. We didn't have anything at that time. We had the Miami Dolphins. You had the Hurricanes were rolling, and so they maybe that's why we're so obsessed with talking about them because at the time of their prominence, they were it, man. I mean, it was Marino and the Canes in the very next sentence. Wow, did you see the Canes game? People were talking about it all.
They were a national story because of all the stuff surrounding them, they were national. Like they were a national story.
Well, and they also had an element of serendipity to them, especially since that first championship we talked about a lot with Tony yesterday. I mean, think about that. They beat Nebraska and then overcame and climbed over, I believe, 4 other teams to get the top vote in the polls. And a lot of that was triggered by Pat tie-dye with Auburn going for a tie. And then it was very interesting. I don't know if that moved or influenced Tom Osborne to go for 2 in that spot. But that was one of those cases where a guy made a move that a lot of people would say, hey, what a stupid move, man. All he had to do was get the extra point. We had the national championship wrapped up. But competitive spirit, had some balls, and said, hey, if we're going to win this thing, let's win it. Yep. And went for 2 on that 2-point conversion. They didn't have overtime back then also, right? Because the games did end in a tie.
Yeah.
No OT.
They didn't have overtimes, and ties happen somewhat often,
quite frequently, I mean, and there were possibly 2 giant ones on that final day of the season, and fortunately Osborne went for the 2, and the rest is history. But it's interesting because the Canes started out as sort of a Cinderella story at the beginning of their long run of excellence, and then later sort of became a very divisive element where you either loved them or you hated them.
The criminals.
And they kind of dug that whole idea that, well, we're going to come into your territory, we're going to beat the crap out of your football team and steal your girls on the way to the bus.
The swagger. They invented swagger.
Swagger, man. Jimmy's book. It's going to be great. But anyway, it was a great period of time here in South Florida.
But high line horse racing was a big part of it.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have pro sports. Like high line horse racing were huge.
Joey Kornblit was a well-known athlete in town. Now, if you mention Joey to somebody that moved here 10 years ago, they're like, Joey, what was he? Have a pizzeria? Who's Joey?
Joey's.
The guy was an idol. He was up there. He wasn't quite Dan Marino, but, you knew of him. Aziz, some of these guys were absolutely fantastic. And the horse racing scene was dynamite here. I mean, it really was. And the world's focus was very much on especially the track that had the middle dates. The midwinter dates. I guess they were the winter dates. They were called.
Winter.
So that was a big deal. But the trivia challenge was born out of desperation. The guy Rovine says, forget it, man. Why would we advertise on a horse racing show? And we're like, well, because we're the only people talking about your sport. We actually, managed to work a deal out where we had an hour's worth of time to talk about horse racing exclusively. Wow. On a major radio station, even though it was like middle of the night. It's still, back then you actually had an overnight guy doing live radio from like midnight to 5 in the morning.
Yep.
Imagine that was a shift.
I know.
That was a shift they gave you if they weren't happy that you still had a guaranteed contract, but they wanted you to quit. How about overnights, Defo? Yeah, I think I could do something in that slot. You got the lunatics out there, you got the drunks. So when he said, hey, listen, we can't support this horse racing nonsense, the Polyman and I pivoted naturally out of desperation and said, yeah, guess what? We have a trivia show now. And that was it. So I'm going to toss out a trivia question for our trivia freaks out there. This might be too easy, Lubie. I think even you get this, even though you're not really a big hockey trivia guy. But Ovechkin, every time he scores a goal, seems like he's setting another record. He's erasing the name of another legend from the record book, although, the guy still sits there in second place. So I'm going to toss this out. You can answer it on the chat line. Please don't look it up. Because not that I knew this off the top of my head, but
please don't look it up.
Please don't look it up.
Honor system.
Please only take 1 candy bar, you fat piece of shit. And you can see now with the ring thing, the ring camera.
You can watch them. You start talking.
You see this fat kid waddle away like he was Jalen Waddle, just scoring a touchdown. Waddle away into the parking lot there with like an old bowl full of candy. You're lucky he even leaves the empty carved pumpkin that you put this stuff in. All right, so Ovechkin just scored his 787th career goal. Alexander Ovechkin with the Washington Capitals. And that eclipsed the record of whom as the most goals scored with a single franchise. Ovechkin has played his whole career with the Washington Capitals. Who had the previous record for most goals with a franchise at 786? There's your hockey question for the day.
I may know
most goals with one franchise. You probably know it.
I have a guess. I have a guess. I don't know if I know it. I don't want to we'll see.
You don't want to blow. All right, so we'll throw that out there, and what?
Do the chat or call. I mean, if you want to call, you can call. The number's up there.
Numbers up there. Okay,
If they want to call, they can call.
that's all I got today on the trivia.
I was gonna say,
And I pulled that out of my ass. So
want to call, they can. We'll take the
number will be 954. Yeah, well, we'll take it on a call. 954-417-0070. Anytime during the show, if you come up with that one. Yeah, Lenny the Chronic. You're disqualified, Lenny. You already know the answer.
See, I was
honey, put it on the chat line so everybody can see.
He wins. I was hoping it wasn't him. I was gonna say Mario Lemieux was what I was gonna say. Thinking
Lemieux would have been good.
Yeah, just a long time, but not like. I mean,
how about Maurice Richard or one of those guys?
That's old school.
You know, some guy that played for the Montreal Canadiens for like 50 years. All right. Well, the answer was Gordie Howe. So there goes. There's your trivia challenge for today, and we'll see you tomorrow, man. With a Degenerate Friday. Kind of took care of that very quickly. Did we not? Mike Lubie Lubitz, Gurgles out, and here we go.
That was great.
All right, a lot on my mind. A lot on my mind today is, a lot of people feel, I don't know, do you feel some sense of relief? I didn't really see what level of damage was done.
Was that it? Because I know it was supposed to be Wednesday into Thursday.
It hit last night, I guess, landfall somewhere around 3 in the morning. I was watching TV. I was out late, a little bit late last night. I went to the Hard Rock. And we had freebie tickets to see Adam Sandler.
How was your Sandler experience?
Well, and the Mustang's been working on the weekends now, so she's been unable to go through her usual routine of, going through her free play in a local casino here, and then going through another 300 after that, and calling it a wonderful day. And then I have to hope that I hit on the horses. Although I would have to say, overall, she's had a brilliant couple of years of slot play. Maybe in slight decline right now. And what a gambler really needs to understand is no streak lasts forever. And if you make a couple of big scores in succession, there's a pretty good chance. I mean, think about the previous, in the Mustangs' case, 55 years of your life where you've been losing all the time. There's a pretty good chance that that scenario is going to rebound right back into your face. And that even though you got lucky with a couple of scores, guess what? The general process is not a favorable one of gambling, especially on slot machines. And then, Mustang now feels like she has a system, and I hear her on the phone talking to her friends about her system of slot play. Now, unless you have some magnetic,
it's not counting cards
source or a way to like recalibrate the machine somehow with X-ray vision. Slot machines are set up so you get fucked.
You're not winning. Even if you win, you still lose. Like
it's a steady grind down, right? You only hope to spin the wheels for a long period of time before whatever money you stick in there just evaporates. I mean, think about it. It's a reverse ATM machine. You're shoving 20s and hundreds into a slot machine.
Exactly.
And you don't get a lot of time. I mean, the first 17 spins can always be negative on a slot machine, can they not? How often is that the case? Or obviously you look around you and you see nobody is winning in a lot of casinos. New Orleans Harris being the worst of all when it comes to slot machine play. And I don't want to say too many disparaging things about them because I love the freebie opportunities to go there. But I know I tell myself every time, hey, this isn't my game here when it comes to gambling. Whatever money I bring to gamble there, I'm resigned pretty much to losing because they took out a couple of my, absurd casino games that I favor. I don't know. I kind of like that little, I'm not a 3-card poker player. But I do like that stupid game, Let It Ride, which, as we've said many times, look, casinos never devised. This came from the great Eddie Kaplan, who came up in conversation last night. I saw an old friend, a young guy, man, and one of these guys that you see him like 10 years later, and he still looks exactly the same, maybe even younger.
Good for him.
My friend Boxing Armando, he was a producer in radio for a long time. He works for Telemundo, and now he's doing real estate. Knows everything there is. I mean, this guy knows boxing ice cold, and he used to produce for Eddie Kaplan. So I saw him last night at this Adam Sandler thing that I went to, and I would say this. The show started out with so much promise. It really did. They brought up some guy that was like a local guy, was a friend of Sandler's, and he did, a very short stand-up bit there to open things up. The theater is fantastic there at the Hard Rock Hotel in South Florida here in Hollywood. I mean, if you get a chance to see a show there, I don't think you can go wrong. I've sat in a lot of different areas. I sat on the floor. I've sat in, the immediate area above the floor there, which I kind of like. And yesterday was the first time I sat in the balcony section, in the 200 section there. They have 3 levels. So I'm in the middle level. And it was a great view. The sound system in there is incredible.
Yeah, they do a great
the
job.
lighting, I mean, it's a really dynamic show and a great venue for any kind of show. It holds, I think, is that right? Only 3,000 people? Is that right? Seems like more.
Something like 5,000. I don't know.
5,000?
I think it's 10 to 15. I think it's around 5,000.
Because the old Hard Rock Live, when they first put it together, which is funny to consider it the old Hard Rock Live, because I was part of the christening of that venue, because they started out, they were having boxing matches there of reasonably high level of significance on a regular basis. I mean, they were doing shows there, it seemed like, once a month. And then on top of that, because they were making a lot of money on the slot machines, these productions, Lubie, of all the television productions I've ever been involved in, these were far and away the most elaborate. These pay-per-view boxing events that were being staged by the Seminole Tribe, and Warriors Boxing was affiliated with them, and they had them at what was then considered to be a spectacular breakthrough in terms of local facilities for shows, music, boxing, whatever, sporting events. And everybody thought, wow, this is the most modern thing I've ever seen. This place is fabulous. And that sat like 5,000 people. I saw a lot of concerts there, too, at what is now the old Hard Rock Live. By comparison, man, I mean, this is, as elaborate as any theater that you've ever been in, right? The Arch Center isn't as nice as what they have here, with all that philanthropic money that Adrian Marsh.
So that's why the tickets go for so much. 2,500 seats. It's 2,500.
That's it? Oh, wow.
Smaller. Wow, that's crazy.
Boy, that seems really unusual, because when you look down, from the balcony there, you're like, wow, man, there are a lot of people in this joint.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, well, what are the chances Adam Sandler sells 2,500 tickets? I would think 0.0, no?
Oh, no. He sells out. I mean, 2,500 is not that much.
2,500 people. And he was there the night before also.
Yes.
So he starts on, had a guy on there that I wasn't familiar with. I don't think he was, at a very high level of comedy, but he's friends with Sandler, and he actually was pretty funny. Went to Broward Community College. So a local kid. And the audience couldn't have been any more receptive or willing to laugh. I mean, the audience really wanted to enjoy Adam Sandler.
Good.
So, and it featured, the program was teased as Adam Sandler and special guest. So all speculation was that the special guest was going to be
Chris Rock, which is not going to
buddy Chris Rock. Not happening, right?
I think he's on tour.
Yeah.
It wasn't good Rock.
No chance. No, there was no
It
chance.
wasn't going to be Rock. He's headlining. I mean, and he's a bigger headliner than Sandler when it comes to comedy.
Oh, Rock he blows away Adam.
He's a legend. Yeah, he's a legend.
No, and he's a much better stand-up comedian. I mean, he's a very
good.
polished. His specials when he was on HBO, if you go and look at him, you're like, wow, how does this guy do this, man? He is on his game.
Well, he's one of those that got paid a ridiculous amount, like Chappelle from Netflix.
Yeah.
Like Sandler doesn't get that for comedy. He gets that for his wonderful movies.
I think he should retire from comedy. I'll get to that.
Okay, I'm ready. Go on.
Yeah. So, all right. So that guy opens up. He's funny. And then they bring another guy out who I wasn't familiar with, who's also like a Netflix star. And that guy was very good, animated, and he did about 10 minutes, and he really had the audience attention. And you're thinking, wow, this is building up to orgasmic levels here. I mean, by the time Sandler hits the stage, it's going to really be good. Now, usually in a comedy show, you might get an opening act, and rarely would you get like a secondary opening act, and then your headliner comes on right after the opening act, who usually is accorded more time to go ahead and get the audience going in the right direction. And maybe the opening act would come on for 20 minutes, and the regular featured guy is going to do an hour or something like that. All right, so after that, they bring in, what's the guy's name? Judd Apatow, the guy that wrote all the movies?
Judd Apatow.
Apatow, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was good. I mean,
he's worked on stand-up. He was always a writer, director, producer, and now like stand-up's the thing he's always wanted to do.
Well, he did it well. I mean, he had the audience's attention. He was dynamic on stage, and he really had you into what it was that like we hope to do here in the show. We're hoping that eventually you go, well, when is this guy going to say something? But I mean, you want you want to be in tune with it. And Apatow, I mean, he was fine. He was good, and you're thinking, wow, this is really getting good. And who's the guy? Rob Schneider,
Rob Schneider, who's become a very right wing.
right wing man. He was right wing,
Yeah,
but they loved it there because we're in Florida, right?
yes.
Literally, man.
The
I
hormones
mean,
are right.
people came to the show wearing Trump masks. It was. Something, but he was very well received for his right wing political statements that he was making. Although he didn't overdo it, but he definitely played into it. But it was very funny, a dynamic presence, and now you're waiting for Sandler. He's going to come up there next, and he's got 4 or 5 like really classy looking electric guitars laid out. You're thinking,
He
wow,
plays music a lot.
this is going to
Notice
be
that
something. I mean, that this guy plays all these guitars.
Yeah.
And it got to the point, though, after Sandler took the stage where you were counting what guitars he hadn't played and saying, oh, good, only 3 guitars left. Because you couldn't wait to get the fuck out of there. I mean,
no.
I don't want to say it was so bad, but I mean, and the people were trying to be overwhelmingly receptive. I mean, they were just looking for any reason to laugh at anything that Sandler said or did. And wow, I thought it was like the biggest egg I've ever seen. And nothing against the guy. Everybody says he's a real good guy. Obviously, he travels with his buddies there and takes care of people that are in his circle of friends. But the stand-up act was weak.
Well, that's the thing is he had a Netflix special that sort of was a big deal. Like, was it a year or 2 years ago? And I remember, he had the Hanukkah song, so I like that.
Yeah, the songs, I mean, were okay, but after a while, it's like, okay, so the guy does a bunch of goofy songs.
Some of his movies are okay, so I was like, let me watch this thing. And look, I watched a lot of Netflix specials, like when HBO, Showtime. When it comes to I like stand-up, so usually you can find an angle, get into it, even if it's not great. There's something funny about it. They're up there for a reason, especially getting a special. I watched 5 minutes of it, and I was like, "What the?" I was like, I couldn't finish half of it, let alone the whole thing. So when you
New
said
Dimensions,
last night, I was like, I don't know if you.
Lubie, I honestly, if they had thrown you up there, you wouldn't have done any worse, in my opinion.
God. Oh, God.
They could have put you up there with a pair of bongos and said, "Hey, you got an hour? Do your best."
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, it started to get ponderous after a while. It was almost like he was doing a spoof on what a comedy show should be, although it was well produced.
Yeah,
I will say that. I mean, they had like corresponding video with the goofball songs that he sings. And some of them, you're thinking, okay, so when this guy was taking a shit or a shower, he came up with a couple of lines that made some sense, and then he couldn't rhyme it out, so he ended it in like an offbeat fashion. I mean, who would do this? Way off on a tangent somewhere. But wow, I have to say this. I mean, the immense growth of the Hard Rock from the times where it had already expanded to like what would have been considered just outrageously grandiose proportions. Because I remember this had to be. I have one of the posters on the wall here. It goes back to like 2005, I guess.
Yeah, the early 2000s when I went all the time, and it was really fun and it was really cool. It's night and day now. I mean, now it's straight up Vegas. Like you feel like you're in Vegas.
Oh my God! I mean, it is more grandiose than many Vegas destinations. I don't know. I mean, the Bellagio obviously is spectacular, but and this doesn't even take into account the Guitar Hotel, which I've never stayed in, but it looks pretty spectacular, does it not?
Well, that section's sick. That section, they have like 3 clubs over there. It's insane.
A zillion restaurants, man. Mayo, though, he goes there and he eats there, and he has very favorable opinions about the food, which may be good. But like $12 for a hot dog at the sports bar, they put together a very nice sports room configuration. Have you seen that arrangement at the Hard Rock?
Where?
Well, I mean, remember, there was a time there where DeSantis made that underhanded deal, with the Seminoles, and somehow all of a sudden we had sports gambling, even though it was going to be shot down immediately by some federal judge, because however they did it, they didn't do it right, and then it was very exclusive. They were literally going to just trample the other parimutuel facilities that have been in operation, crossing their fingers every day. We're never going to become a woke state, are we? Because we need to awaken to the idea that other states are making zillions of dollars on sports wagering, and we're losing out, people. Who wouldn't have thought of like just campaigning on that platform alone? that there should be another party besides Republican, Democrat, the degenerate party. Who's looking out for our interests? That's the question.
The professor yesterday morning chatted in saying California, like of all the states that would be open-minded to things, California supposedly voted down sports gambling.
Is that right?
I don't get, how has it become like I don't understand why it's just not a national thing. Make your money.
I don't get it. I mean, look, they've taken over the most powerful entities in all of sports. I mean, they're completely infiltrated. What's great too is like they're in bed with all of these different organizations: the NFL, the NBA,
Yep.
NHL has wagering in their hockey. I mean, who would ever think about betting on hockey? Except I'll bet you can't stay awake through the third period of a nothing game. Sarni's going to get mad at me.
He doesn't care about hockey.
If you like nothing, the World Cup is your cup of tea, man. It's right around the corner here. Yeah, here we go, 0-0. I tell you, what a chess match. Who wants to watch a fucking chess match?
That's my favorite when it's 0-0. They're like, wow, what action? I'm like, 0-0.
Blutarsky, baby. It's 0.0.
And then they're like, they're dominating. England is dominating. I'm like, it's 0-0. I guess they're not that dominant. It's like, Jesus.
I'm watching just endless hours of nothingness happening, where all the action is around the middle of the field, and then a guy dodges a couple of guys, and then he kicks it back to the goaltender who's 50 yards behind him, and the goalie grabs the ball, looks around for a while, holds it over his head, and then he puts it on the ground. There's nobody anywhere near him, and he kicks it to midfield, and it goes right back into the same circumstance. Woohoo!
Yes.
What strategy? My God. Chess match. That's what it's all about, man. I take knight to king 2, or whatever that is. Pawn to queen 6. And look, that's coming up. When does that start? I've seen a zillion Fox promos for it.
In the next week or so.
Right? And the U.S. is involved, at least in the preliminary stages.
This time. Yes, we're in it this time.
But we have no chance, right? I mean, it's like the AFC East, and you're, looking at being the Jets in any other year but this one. Where you got no chance, man. You're
20th, so a week and a half. November 20th through December 18th. That was almost a month.
We'll be riveted. We'll have some coverage on that, I'm sure. Well, we usually get somebody on that can speak about it.
I bring Shane on. That's when we, every 40 years.
Phil Shane, yeah.
Phil Shane.
Does he time the call? He knows it's you? Like, oh, look at that. 2022.
Hey, Lubie. Nice to hear from you.
It's Lubie. I know he doesn't, acknowledge my birthday or any other thing, but I'm hearing from him because it's the World Cup. Anyway, that's coming up. All right, a lot of different things happening. The storm yesterday, a piece of the Lauderdale by the Sea pier, the Anglin Pier, collapsed.
Oh, geez.
This is the big thing that they're showing on TV because, I mean, wow. I mean, the local news people, I mean, you want to maintain some level of dignity, don't you? Just some level of dignity.
Supposed to.
It was pretty clear nothing was happening, right? I mean, about 3:30 yesterday or 3 o'clock, I go on my walk of life. I got drizzled on a little bit. That was about it, right?
And it wasn't even a hard rain. It was like a constant, like, drizzle.
Most of the time I'm walking, an hour and a half, no rain whatsoever. It was very pleasant outside. And you're looking going, okay, very fortunate for us here in South Florida that this has moved north. Very unfortunate. And obviously our sympathies and empathies are with anybody that was in the path of any of these like vicious storms that, even if it's minor damage, if the minor damage happens to be a tree that fell through the roof of your house,
it's not minor,
and took out everything that you own. And then on top of that, threatened, serious physical or maybe even catastrophic harm to people. I mean, that's significant damage, at least to that guy. I mean, it may not be overwhelming mass damage, but I would imagine that, there will be some, very unfavorable results from a Category 1 hurricane hitting, right? What's the chance that everything is still standing and, people wake up after, the wind finally blows its way up to Ohio?
If you get hit direct by the north side, I presume if we got that, then you at least got some winds and some rain, real rain. I mean, I'm presuming someone got affected by it. I hope not. I woke up and I was like, is it done?
See, I don't believe this pier collapse had anything to do I mean, if it did, it had to be of the most minor variety. That it had to be on the verge of collapse
I was
long
gonna say that it
before.
wasn't in good shape.
Because
It barely rained.
yeah, and you're looking, and it's always great. My friend and a good big fan of the show, Peter Dench from CBS. His assignment was to be at Lauderdale by the Sea. Now, this was prior to the pier collapsing, which obviously, I mean, it's significant, but I don't believe that it had much of anything to do with what was going on weather-wise. I think it's very fortunate it didn't happen on a nice day. You know what I mean? Where the people were out there, because there's popular restaurants all in that area, and a lot of people like to go out on the pier there, just walk out there. And,
Yeah.
unfortunately, if you were contemplating jumping after getting beat at the buzzer by a three-pointer, if you were backing the Heat the other night and hoping to get to overtime so you could cover a point spread against Portland, unfortunately, if you were standing in the middle of this thing, you're fucking in the drink. Fortunately, I think nobody was out there. But right behind Dench, and I love this, is a kid with a big smile on his face, not a kid necessarily, but like some guy, in his 20s. And he's got a surfboard, and that's what it was for the most part yesterday, Surf's Up. That was, on my little travails there, I get several glimpses of the open ocean, and you're looking going, yeah, look at that, man. Guys are actually they got the surfboards out. I don't even know if it was rough enough for them to catch a wave or two.
I was gonna say, I'm like, was it that windy? I'm like, by me, there was winds, but it wasn't like windy.
Yeah, but I think the two were somewhat unrelated. The collapse of the pier, and I can't imagine that what was happening here yesterday in this area was enough to cause damage to what was already a soundly, a foundation of a pier that was just soundly constructed. This thing had to be eroding over the last however many years it's been since they put this thing up. Infrastructure, Joe B. Come on.
There you go.
I don't want to be standing on a pier trying to catch, some blue runner, and next thing you know, you're down there with the sharks, swimming with the fishes. But it did hit. I mean, it made landfall to the north of here, Fort Pierce, which is about 90 miles north of where we are. Enough too, since we were on the downside, which Mr. Weatherby there, Mike Mayo, described in great detail. And wow, who knew he had weather person ability? Did he also attend a school to be a meteorologist?
I don't know. He was doing. We all, when you're in South Florida, you have sort of an idea of how things work. You all are, sort of not like side meteorologist, but he was talking about barometric pressure, latitude, and the wind, and it was like, what? I got into it in a way I've never, and I'm lived here my whole life, and we all are like, well, if it turns this way, then you see this. He was like getting into it. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah. Well, there's the good side and the bad side. We were on the good
we all
side.
know. Yeah, we all know.
So I doubt very much they're going to have to. I mean, I hope they do some kind of examination on this. But that pier was collapsing regardless of what was happening. If it wasn't yesterday, it was going to be sometime in the very near future, no matter how calm and beautiful it was outside. So maybe it's fortunate that that there weren't many people around, and I don't think anybody was injured. But it did look weird. I mean, that's right down the street from me here.
Yeah.
Now, there was nothing else of any kind. I mean, I drove around last night. It was like a rainy day in Georgia. We've had far worse conditions to travel around in, and there were quite a few people on the road because the Sandler thing, I guess, did they paper the entire house? Is there anybody out there that would have paid like $50 for a ticket to see Adam Sandler?
Yes, people like him. Yeah, people like him. I mean, Roy, our friend who longtime radio guy, now with I think
Ray Perez, yeah, great guy.
Show. Good dude. He's the engineer behind everything we do. He put a message on Facebook. Now I don't know if he went as a fan, because I know he does do camera work for a lot of different production, so maybe he was working it, but he put a post on Facebook. He was giddy. I'm a lifelong stan, which means like a super fan of Adam Sandler. He loved it from the night before, so I I presume people did pay.
I would have rather seen Sandler doing Shakespeare, honestly, than the stand-up act that he had. I mean, honestly, the Polyman is far funnier, just on any daily basis. All right, on the sporting front, now TCU, right, ranked number 4 college football playoff, and they're underdogs, 7-point dogs to Texas.
I guess at Texas.
Yeah, unbelievable. Well, it must be at Texas if they're favored that heavily. What do you think of that, Lubie? I mean, the committee's buying into TCU. Aren't they supposed to take into consideration all of these factors? And yet the odds makers, the people who really know what the hell they're doing, they have installed Texas as a 7-point favorite in that game. So I mean, what's your thought? Does Cinderella continue?
Well, the problem is the TCU, and it's the thing I did with Michigan that Sarni made fun of me for.
Yeah.
But TCU hasn't. If you look at their schedule now, looking back at it, like schools like Oklahoma that were once top 10,
right,
have not been
They're
good.
dogs this year.
Kansas, who Tony Sands, I love Tony Sands from St. Thomas, Kansas legend. I talked with him on our Believe podcast. South Florida football icon, is a Kansas alum, and I'm sorry, Tony. Kansas looked fun for like the first few weeks, and then
where were they? Like 5-0. They started out. They were great.
Kansas State is, I think, still ranked, but they're not good.
Game Day was going there. You had Chris Fowler there and Herb Street.
Well, that's the problem. Like TCU, people don't know what to do with them. The committee had to make them 4. Like Clemson lost, Alabama has 2 losses. Like, who are you putting at 4? So someone had to be there. I just don't know what to do with Texas. Like Texas, the quarterback, Ewers is a beast, but they're up and down. Like they're not consistent. So
many of the handicappers in the post here, among the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that have been listed in this panel, many have TCU as one of their best bets in that game. TCU is one of their best bets. Also, Florida State favored over Syracuse.
Yeah.
In what is a heads up. I don't care enough about the Syracuse football team to even want to get involved in a wager. I wouldn't even mind, Lubie. I mean, sure, I like to see the Cuse do well, but they've lost 3 straight.
Yeah.
The quarterback Schrader, who was really making people think twice about Syracuse quarterbacks over the years. Although they did have Donovan McNabb would be the most successful.
The last one. Yeah, the last one.
When I was there, they had a guy named Rich Panzician, who killed the entire legend of the number 44. They gave him number 44, Rich Panzician. And I think if you look him up, his achievements were very modest compared to those who had gone before him wearing 44, including the immediate predecessor, one Larry Q. Zonka.
Oh, yeah. Well, that number
right? You had what? Ernie Davis. You had Jim Nance, who not the announcer, but the guy was a monster running back in the AFL there with the Buffalo Bills and I guess other teams. He was great. And you had Floyd Little. Larry Zonka.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable. I
Jim
mean,
Brown.
Jim Brown, yeah.
Jim Brown.
Not forget the great one, yeah. And then all of a sudden you got Rich Panzician, and that was it, man. It was real easy, at one time to scalp those student tickets. But in 1969, when I got there, and Rich Panzician got the number 44, that was it, my friend. It was over. You had to either go to the game and sit there, and back in that time, they had cement seats in the old Archibald Stadium, which became the Carrier Dome.
Man, it's cold, too. Oh, no, they had cement when it was like
this thing was at the top of the windiest part. I mean, not even, snow drifts would hit you in the face. Not flakes, drifts.
Oh, my God.
And you're watching the Cuse run the ball 70 times against Penn State, and you're thinking, throw it, Ben, throw it. Anyway, Florida State seems to be favored among the handicappers. You got Florida State, Syracuse, Florida State, Syracuse.
Well, the quarterback thing, and I didn't realize why Syracuse was playing so bad recently. Like, they haven't looked good. I didn't realize their quarterback wasn't playing. So he's either not going to play, or if he plays, he's not magically 100%. Like, the fact that he's not okay to play today means if he plays, he's not going to be himself. So now you're going to have an injured quarterback, which is what you saw with Tyler Van Dyke. Like, the dude shouldn't have been out there.
Right.
So, I mean, whatever FSU does, there is letdown factor after the way they celebrated that win.
I don't know. See, I think that they go out there. This is a team.
I wouldn't even take it seriously.
I have to give Norvell credit. I mean, they're getting better.
We'll see.
They're getting better. They really are. I mean, that was a dynamite performance. If the Canes aren't the worst dogs in all of college football, then that was a real hell of a performance. And now the Canes are not very good, but
that's my thing. I don't know what to do with they didn't let up, so I'll give them that. Like, a lot of times in the second half, FSU will let up. They didn't. They kept it coming, but I don't know what
I think Joe Zagacki was on that pier, the announcer for the Hurricane games, for those unfamiliar with Joe's work. Just hoping that it would collapse. All right, this is great. I love people that are handicapping hockey because you're thinking if a guy is, skilled enough and has enough depth of knowledge and frame of reference to give you an opinion on a hockey game's outcome, then they probably are pretty well immersed in the sport, are they not? And this is one of those things about being a degenerate where people always think, well, geez, I've got to make my score on the big football game or on the big races, whatever it is that you're betting on. But if you could figure out a system, like if you saw that you could just nail the NHL at a high ratio because certain trends made games obvious where people weren't really looking into it because they were just like, it's hockey. I don't know.
Yeah, but why not?
I like the Hurricanes. Maybe you would have bet on the Hurricanes last night since the hurricane was hitting South Florida, right? I mean, if you were going to go on a hunch angle, that would have been it. So the Panthers playing Carolina. This guy named Michael LeBoeuf.
Okay.
Nice French-Canadian name, right?
Yeah. Sounds like a guy that knows
Michel Leboeuf, huh? You cheap bastard.
You're ready to slam him. Yell about his driving.
I mean, look, Lubie, this is not a small piece. That's a lot of space to dedicate to rationale about one hockey game that you're going to wager on.
That's a lot for a regular season NHL game that
Yeah.
doesn't feature one of your teams.
All right, so here's his theory last night. He's telling you to bet the Hurricanes at plus 100. You were getting even money. You didn't have to lay the juice. So, you were getting a little bit of a price there, although it seems odd to call it a price when you're getting even money. But usually it'd be like minus 110 to win 100 on a team that was in a pick'em situation. So you're getting a little bit of a break here. Hurricanes coming to South Florida, take on the Panthers. And he says the Hurricanes and Panthers entered the season priced as two of the favorites in the Eastern Conference. But so far, only one of those teams has truly lived up to the billing, Lubie. How about that?
There you go.
And since he's going to make a case for Carolina, you're assuming it's that. Just picking and choosing some spots here in the logic. Florida's 7-5-1 record is nothing to get too alarmed about, but its +1 goal differential and the fact that the team ranks 15th in goals per game is a bit of a concern for a team that set the salary cap era record with 337 tallies in the previous season. Yeah. We were all duped in by that, were we not?
Yep.
All right, building a pretty good case here, right? Panthers a little bit of a fraud. Hurricanes one of the favorites. They've lived up to their top billing so far. And Matt Tkachuk suspended for 2 games. He's not even going to be on the ice, and Ekblad is injured. If you ever had a vulnerable spot for, they're still getting used to the new coach, who we don't even know who he is. So what's the guy's name?
Paul Maurice.
Paul Maurice, huh? They could have Maurice Chevalier behind the bench. It wouldn't make much difference, I don't think. But they always seem to find a way to fuck it up, the Florida Panthers. And it's unfortunate because I really thought last year that if ever they were going to do something and get it, to the point where you actually reached a Stanley Cup final, last year was their big window of opportunity. And it's a quickly closing gap, is it not, Lubie? I mean, the NHL is a little bit fickle in that regard. Although you would think that Colorado, last year's champion, probably going to be pretty good again this year. Yeah. Anyway, it comes out with the Carolina's ability to roll 4 lines and 3 defense pairs, gives it a serious leg up on the Panthers on Wednesday night, last night.
Oh, Jesus.
So back to Canes to get the job done on the road.
Oh, God.
Your final?
3-0 Panthers.
Pizziparoni, Mr. goal a minute.
Yeah, okay. Andy brings up a good point. Remember
Stick a croissant up your ass, Michael LeBuff. I mean, what kind of garbage is that?
Remember when you brought up last week the Hurricanes and FSU? And there was, I think you said 5 or 6 post guys. 1 guy said FSU and the other 5 all went with the Canes. And
yes,
they all were very confident. And you were like, I was getting frustrated. And the funny thing is, I wasn't because I think FSU is a juggernaut. It's because the stuff they were saying wasn't true. I'm like, I don't think they watched FSU at all. Like, you don't know, like the 3 losses FSU has were all close to teams that at some point in the season were top 15. Like
they had shown much more ability to put it together than the Hurricanes have.
Yes.
The Hurricanes have been just absolutely decomposing right in front of your face.
Yeah.
It's worse every week. When they win, you're horrified.
What do you mean?
That's how bad that got.
VT's bad. They were up big in the VT game and eked out a win. Like, was my thing is, I don't know what FSU's going to do, but I'm like, how would the Canes, if the Canes can figure it out, why did they not the last month? Like they were just screwing around the last month. Like I don't understand.
All you had to do is watch the two teams and the way that even in losses, Florida State was acquitting itself as compared to the Hurricanes, who even in wins were horrifying people that they're absolutely dreadful.
Yeah.
By the way, talk about a turnaround, huh? Murdoch, used to be the biggest Trump backer. All of a sudden, here, big picture of Vidani looking like a clown on the front of the New York Post, and several pages of Trump bashing now by their columnists who used to adore this man.
Well,
what do you make of that, Lubie?
They still adore him. They just like winning. Like they don't care what's good for the country. They just want to win, and they did not.
Trumpty Dumpty is the headline.
They did not win.
They worship this man in the New York Post. Worship him. He can do no wrong.
Well, because he was winning. Or he really wasn't winning. He won an election, and they thought that meant he was the savior.
Yeah.
The whole thing's crazy to me.
Page after page of derisive commentary about, and they even referenced, which I don't know if this is true. I saw it on like social media, that Trump was blaming Melania, who had disappeared until just the other day. I didn't even know she was still alive. Did you?
I thought she was smart enough to have left the country, gotten far away from him. To be honest with you,
we see more of Jimmy Carter's wife, than we do of Melania. She was, obviously, somebody that photographers would be more inclined to flock to see what was going on. And who knows? Does she even live? Does she live in the country anymore, Melania? Not sure.
She didn't think so.
But he was blaming her for the loss of mental
Oz, Dr. Oz. He would have never backed a candidate like Dr. Oz if not for Melania. Yeah, okay, Trump. Listen to Melania. Yeah, that relationship really feels
stuff,
like
All right, we have a lot of stuff. And a Thursday night football game today. Who's playing tonight here? Thursday night football. The Falcons. Oh, a hot one for Amazon. This thought it set Jeff Bezos back a couple of billion, right? Falcons Panthers tonight.
Oh, Jesus.
And you have to go out of your way to find this game. I don't. I have it.
But, most of us have it. It's just not worth watching.
Those Thursday nighters have been snooze city. Is that because they don't feel that Al Michaels can keep pace with a really good ball game anymore?
I don't know.
Because he kind of fits these games. He's looking a little old, is he not?
He looks old, but his game is the same.
They're putting his makeup on with a spatula. Literally, man. They got like
he's in his 80s. What do you want?
It's like they're caulking a wall before a hurricane. I don't have any leaks here. No, I'm put a little extra on there. Don't worry about how it looks. We'll clean it up later. Unbelievable. All right, so that one looks like a dud to start the week. The Dolphins are surprisingly tepid favorites, in my opinion, over the Browns. The Browns are coming here to South Florida.
Have the Browns been winning? Like the way I'm hearing people talk about the Browns is like they're good, and I didn't think they were good, but the Dolphins are at home.
Yeah,
have played pretty well offensively, and I get it. Their defense has been sort of a sieve, so I guess you would think maybe. Oh, that's what it was. 2 weeks ago, they annihilated the Bengals. So people and they were off last week. So
they look good in that Bengal game. They did.
Yes.
They put a lot of pressure on Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow is like the Statue of Liberty, literally, not the play, but the actual statue, compared to Tua, who where he might not be as elusive as Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray or some of these other quarterbacks of that ilk. He still, he gets out of there fast enough that
Burrow's supposed to be a guy that can run. The problem is he doesn't have time.
He doesn't have time.
For that line, it was like, yes, he made the Super Bowl, but every game he got sacked 15 times. That's not normal.
He's getting pummeled, man. This guy's going to have a sparring partner mentality by the end of the season.
That's the thing.
Go ahead, champ. You never got me down. Like all of a sudden, he's Jake fucking LaMotta out there. You never got me down, Ray. You never got me down. All right, you'll never get down. Again, the Hard Rock was great, but I know it's a losing proposition. The Mustang, I didn't even ask her how much she lost.
No.
I dabbled like nothing because I never have any luck there. I put like $40 into a video poker machine. It evaporated quickly. And I'm looking around. I was sitting actually. They have so many machines there. That I was just sitting in one of the chairs at the machine pretending that I was playing and, so nobody would kick me out. Because that's always embarrassing where, one of the people, one of the floor managers comes over and goes, sir, are you going to insert any money into that machine anytime soon?
You're just like hanging
You're
out,
not at a fucking bus station.
hoping people don't bother you.
And I will say this, because I'm a big fan. I mean, one of my favorite things to do in Las Vegas or any casino environment, but Vegas, I guess, is the one that is most conducive to just watching the drift. In New York City, I didn't mind being a part of the drift. It's a quick drift in New York City. You're
Yep,
hustling.
yep.
Yeah. Well, Vegas, you're moving, but you're not all there, man.
Yeah.
And I like to sit at that restaurant, which is a great place there. Did you ever eat at that Mon Ami Gabi at the Paris?
No.
You sit outside there. You got the Bellagio fountains across the street, so they're going off every 15 minutes or so. And you're thinking, aren't they a little short on water here? It is the desert.
I was just gonna say, isn't always
They
droughts
got
out west?
fountains and mermaids. What was that show they used to have with the water skiers that were like in synchronization?
Oh,
Where was that, man? That was
I know
always
what you're
featured
talking about.
like Wide World of Sports every now and
I
then.
was gonna say.
The bathing suits. Think about how hideous the bathing suits were back in the day. I mean, really, like a regular bathing suit would be like pasties and a G-string compared to what they were wearing back then. All this fluff and puff. I mean, it was just absolutely ridiculous. But no, the drift as you watch the people go by is fantastic there.
Yes, it is.
And the drift at the Hard Rock. I mean, where are these people in South Florida? I never see them anywhere else. Do you? Where did they all come from? And they're all in there. The 2,500 of them are all in there on a freebie to see Adam Sandler. And it's not a freebie if you get clobbered in the machines, which I don't know. Did he take a drill and calibrate them down to like 0 point? There's no regulation there. No state regulation.
No. We did it. We did twice. Because we used to go to a lot of shows. So twice we actually went to a machine, and I don't think we went. I think it just went straight down.
Yeah, right out the window, man. Because a
Like,
couple of
you know,
people played the
that-
machine next to me when I was sitting, just parked there for a while, waiting for the Mustang to finish up, dropping whatever it was, 2-3 sticks. And I keep, I couldn't justify this in my Jewish paranoid mind. I was like, I can't believe I'm going to end up paying $300 to see Adam Sandler. Which on a Wednesday night, who the fuck would I even go out on? And we have a hurricane hitting us, and I'm driving across town to see Adam Sandler. Me, a guy who grew up. I mean, I had the pleasure of seeing Robin Williams in front of 3 people on a Tuesday night
You saw Rock
at the old Comedy Store at the Unknown Comic Con. Yeah.
the setup guy.
Williams gets off the stage, and guess who gets? Andy Kaufman gets up there, and nobody had ever heard of the guy, right? It was an amazing period of time in comedy, and I was lucky to be a part of it. So I don't know, I'm not like overly critical of it, but I went there wanting to laugh my ass off, and needing to obviously after the stresses of life, and we didn't make it to the end. He still had 3 guitars that he hadn't played.
You actually left in the middle of it. That's great.
I gave it every chance. I really did.
Oh my God, you left in the middle of it.
Walked out like I was a Phillies fan. There were 2 away in that no-hitter.
Let's see.
I just don't want to see it anymore.
Oh my God.
Supposedly a really nice guy. And like I said, I mean, my connection to Adam Sandler, he didn't mention his mother-in-law, but he did mention his wife. And I kept thinking of that night where, I was engaged in some kind of, facial suction with Adam Sandler's mother-in-law. And I'm thinking, what a small world, right? What are the chances? Me up here in section 206B on a freebie there that cost me 3 sticks. And I have a direct, intimate connection to the family of the guy who's performing this big show. Well produced, though. I would go there and see other shows. They have some comedians coming up there that I'm not that familiar with because I'm not really watching these comedy specials on Netflix like I used to. And, I would go there anytime to hope to be more entertained than I was by Adam Sandler. All right, hopefully you're being entertained, and we'll come back with more. We apologize for not having a Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. It was Gordie Howe's record, who Alex Ovechkin surpassed most goals by one player with a single franchise. Who else would have been up there, right? Gretzky with Edmonton?
I was going to say, well, no, Gretzky, as well as he was with Edmonton, he moved young enough where I wouldn't have thought him. I was thinking Mario
Bruce McNall, man. I mean, another guy that I had direct contact with, the owner of the Kings. Yeah.
Bobby Hull.
Bobby Hull, wow, yeah, with the
Bobby
Blackhawks.
Hull. And who was the one with the? Oh my God, I can't remember. This round is gonna hate me with the Bruins, the great Boston Bruin. Bobby something, wasn't there? Bobby, the legendary
Not Bobby Orr. Bobby Orr
Bobby
was
Orr. He was
he was a
defenseman.
defenseman, though. Yeah, he wasn't known for the goal scoring so much, although he did score goals.
Yeah, like I would think Brett Hull played with one organization a long time, and he was great.
Yeah,
organization a long time, and he was great. Like those are the people. Like Brett Hull, I think eventually
Lemieux would have been a good guess. I don't know how
Those
many
are the
goals he
two I
had for
would've
his career.
Well,
All
he's
right,
up there. He's up
excellent. See, we did it, right? I mean, we came up with a legitimate question. What's that?
I said, "See, Sarny, we talked hockey. Look at you."
I did that for Sarny. I really did. No, I get a kick out of those things where, this is the funniest part about all this analysis. Now that the betting is so full blown and so much a part. I mean, that whole sports bar was built there just because they figured people were going to be sending it in at the Hard Rock. And I would have to say it looked like a great place. I mean, it was jamming last night, even though you couldn't bet. And there really weren't that many significant sporting events taking place on TV. And I did see a little bit of the Panther game, and that's why it triggered in my mind. It was like, didn't this guy, Labianco or whatever, tell me to go ahead and bet on the Carolina Hurricanes with tremendous logic associated with it? Who is the team, by the way? Was it like the University of Babylon out in Long Island that knocked off Louisville last night?
Some random school, just like FSU. We didn't talk about this, so I appreciate that. FSU lost to Stetson.
Stetson.
The day or two earlier. You had Louisville lose. I don't even know. I never heard of the school that Louisville lost to.
That is always embarrassing, right? Like when Syracuse would lose to Lemoyne, and Lemoyne isn't even college.
Bellarmine.
Who are they, man? I mean, who's on the team?
Bellarmine.
Did Ralph Drollinger still have eligibility? And he was, centering there at like 7'2". What a skinny piece of a rail he was, huh? Imagine following in the footsteps of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Ralph Drollinger. I was a big UCLA basketball fan back in the day. It was pretty easy to be a UCLA basketball fan. But, I mean, I was out there. I used to cover some of the games there. And, I got to talk to the wizard there a few times, John Wooden. Always very accommodating and very kind of grandfatherly in the way that he presented himself, even to a young schmenky reporter like me. I had a good time out there. I got to meet a lot of good people, including the great Dusty Baker, as we relayed the story the other day.
One thing that sucks about Hard Rock, and it's like you're saying, is the casino's supposed to be the thing, but instantly you're going to lose money. That's what's cool about Hialeah is like you literally at least know you have a shot. Like when you go to staying to Hard Rock, you're just automatically writing off $300. You're like, okay, whatever tonight is, it's automatically $400.
I feel like as soon as I park my car, I feel like a new fish at Oz. If you remember that prison show, where they send you right down to the Aryan, race. You're like, I don't want to go down there. I literally, I mean, for me, I mean, a hopeless degenerate gambler, and I like playing occasionally. I mean, I enjoy like sitting, have a shot maybe at this video poker. I had some wins there. But I literally put a staple on my wallet. I said, I'm going to invest 2 20s in this, and if I happen to catch lightning in a bottle, great. But otherwise, I'll wait for the Mustang. I know. I mean, they carried her out of there in a body bag.
Well, because that's the thing is she's automatically going to lose there. So like you have to count. Yeah. You're like, if she's going to lose, how much can I afford to lose?
Oh, and she was on a mission from God, man. It was Blues Brothers. It really was. Who I would have rather seen the Blues Brothers perform there. But if you were going to have ex-Saturday Night Live alumni alumni from Saturday Night Live, why not Aykroyd and a dead Belushi would have been. If they just put Belushi's body on the stage, it would have been funnier.
Oh, Jesus.
Even in a decomposed state than Adam Sandler was last night at the Hard Rock. What a disgrace I am to his mother-in-law too. I mean, she seemed like a very nice lady. All right, we're coming back with more. There's a lot more to talk about here on the show. Our podcast today on Believe Network is going to feature Brandon Lang, or so we hope, although he's been Mr. Reliable, man. I mean, this guy's become Lou Gehrig all of a sudden, huh? Yep. The Iron Man.
Yep.
So we'll have his selections. They're always a hoot in the presentation also. And there's an over-under proposition on all our Brandon Lang interviews on Believe of how many seconds into his appearance on the show is he going to mention trannies or transgender people.
Yes.
And talk about, a giant schlong, basically.
Yes. It's like, he has a weird hang up about that. Yes.
What is that? I mean,
I don't know.
Does it make you feel a little uncomfortable? I know it. I mean, in all honesty,
I'm going to laugh about it, so I don't really worry about it. But yes,
yeah. I mean,
it's a little
you know,
different.
it's just comical because it's his wheelhouse. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's an
But
interesting place to go.
yeah, I never think about it. Right? Do you? I mean,
No, I
why don't
just
we
laugh.
insert like transgender material into our shtick?
Never. Yeah, never. That's not our thing. But it's
That's
fine. Keep going.
I had some other notes here, but we'll get to it. Huh?
Okay.
And the Bruins. Yeah, that was another big story. That disgrace with the Bruins with this Mitchell Miller guy. Did you read that story?
Oh,
See anything
what?
about it? Where the guy was convicted in juvenile court of abusing a mentally a challenged a young black kid, and disparaging, just beat the crap out of him, bullying him. Was constantly referring to him with the N word, and the Bruins signed the kid.
Oh God.
Now this was a few years ago. Cam Neely, the president of the Bruins, is I mean, if you ever wanted to see a guy who looked distraught at a press conference, it was this guy when he was trying to explain why they eventually reversed their opinion about giving this guy another chance. Which I don't know. I mean, should he be condemned for life, Lubie? Pretty disgraceful. I mean, obviously, this was in juvenile court. It was a young black kid with disabilities, and he was abusing him. Very veiled Kyrie Irving-like apology after that. That was the other weird thing. What was this group that was picketing outside of in Kyrie's support outside
Yeah,
the
well,
Brooklyn Arena? The
black
Black
people,
Hebrew Israelites or something? What was
black.
that one?
It, it's done a weird. There's been
They sounded pretty radical, whoever the hell they are, man. No?
well, no, there's been a weird thing where because African Americans want to, be one. I'm not hating. I understand supporting your brothers and sisters. I get it. But like if a Jew, like when Madoff, who was Jewish, was a fucking criminal,
Yeah.
I was like, well, no, there's no way If a guy's a criminal, Kyrie's wrong. He had no idea what the hell he was talking about. He did defend. He promoted a film that is massively anti-Semitic, and it literally denies the Holocaust. I thought we were done with the denying of the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And so just because he's black in skin does not mean you have to defend him. And that's the problem with what's going on is a lot of black people are like, well, see, they're getting the black person down. Do you even know why they're jumping on him this time? Because this isn't the white person jumping after him. It's Jews who have gone through actually more than you've gone through throughout history trying to defend themselves because things go really wrong really fast when people start jumping on the Jews. So that's the problem. That's what's going on now is like, I don't know if they're far. I don't know if they're radical. That's what scares me. It's not radical.
It has to, I mean, absolutely. I mean, every day Adam Silver has to just have his hands in his face. Thinking, why did I ever allow Kyrie Irving,
exactly.
play basketball? We had him. He was out. We should have just made a thing. If you're not vaccinated, you can't play in the NBA, man.
Exactly.
Period. You have to be vaccinated with something, anything. Just, a little inoculation there. All right, now we're coming back with more. A lot more to do here on the program. A lot of oddball stories, though, surrounding sports. I have another big weekend of football on tap. A lot of things to bet on. College basketball. I mean, imagine you had, what was that team? Bartholomew University that beat Louisville. I mean, imagine you had them on the money line.
Bellardine.
Was there anybody out there in our listening audience or viewing audience that had them on the money line?
No, Bellarmine.
How drunk would you have to be to have them on the money line? How much more in the know would you have to be than this Michael LaBeouf, or whatever his name was, that buried us last night with the Hurricanes with sound? Just, very principled logic. And that's where, you have to kind of think outside the normal framework of, anything that would make sense. From a logical standpoint, if you're going to be a degenerate gambler, no, you have to, Lubie. By its very nature, it's going to defy logic. What's going to take place? If you can kind of get on that line, that wavelength, well, those streaks are very short lived. Much like the Mustangs' run of luck on the slot machines. I don't even want to know how much I paid to see Adam Sandler last night.
Oh Jesus! You actually. Oh, you just mean by the Stangs?
Oh, yeah, no. Losses at the machines count. Stang bought a round of drinks in the theater there and a popcorn that was like the size of this cup.
Like
right?
Might be $40.
$54.
Oh, 50. Jesus.
$54, man. I wanted to shit my pants.
Oh my God.
I nearly fired the popcorn at Sandler. I was going to be like that guy in Astros parade looking at that bum Ted Cruz trying to steal in on the, that was the best thing. Mayo sent us. I don't know if everybody's seen it, but, it was being circulated on social media. And that was Ted Cruz getting cursed out at Yankee Stadium. That was one of the funniest things I've seen.
That was the best.
In a long, long time. When the Yankee fans, they didn't even give a shit that Houston had just beat them.
Yeah,
they were like, "Cruz, you scumbag!" You
exactly. It wasn't.
And he's waving like typical, Hey, how you doing, man?
You hear the boos cascading.
This was one of the best versions of the Bronx cheer I've ever seen. And obviously, having worked at zillions of games there at Shea Stadium over the years, I pretty much had heard it all. And also, being a fan of New York City. The fans were far more, critical. If considering that L.A. is supposed to be this blasé town, but those boxing matches at the Olympic Auditorium, that was probably the most critical of fans. They weren't afraid to boo their own guy, but they would do it at the right time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you were thinking, wow, that's appropriate, man. They're just booing Salvador Sanchez, like the greatest fighter of all time, maybe. Because, you know what? He coasted in that 7th round. He just sat there and boom, boom, boom. And that was it. All right, we're coming back with more here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz. We'll have a Degenerate Friday, full-blown Degenerate Friday tomorrow. Mark Lawrence been on fire. Later on, we have Brandon Lang, 2 for the Money fame.
Lang, by the way,
yes.
Did his thing. From what I have, he was 6-1-1 last week, which is freaking insane.
We're all about accountability on this program.
Yes.
So we're not going to tell you the guy was 6-1-1 when he was 1-5. Yeah,
he did really well last week. I mean, the last couple of weeks, his strongest.
His logic is great. I mean, so is this guy's, but unfortunately, his picks were bad.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Lang the last couple of weeks wasn't great, but they were close. It was like he got screwed at the end of the game. That guy was just wrong. Like the Panthers annihilated.
It was a burial. Yeah, total domination.
Like it wasn't close.
I love that when that happens. I don't know why. I get to. I mean, post-race handicapping is always easy, is it not?
Obviously.
I told you the 3 couldn't lose. No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
You bet your money on a 2, and you were screaming for the 9.
Exactly. What are you talking about?
You're a confused, degenerate asshole, is what you are. No, I'm not. I told you the 3 was going to win all along. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Did we mention Hialeah Park, the place to go over to Hard Rock and all of this other place? I mean, the vibe you feel there at Hialeah Park, tremendous. It really is.
Well, you feel it at Hard Rock. See, I don't gamble a lot, but the only time we did gamble, the 2 times, I sat next to Shirley just stressing out because I knew she wasn't going to win.
Ice cold. Ice.
Like, it. Like Hialeah, you're happy because you have a shot. Like, there's a chance.
As soon as I walk out of the car, I hear Facenda in my head. The frozen tundra of Green Bay, Wisconsin. Lambeau Field. Named for the great Curly Lambeau, who reigned supreme over the National Football League in its most glorious era of greatness. Right? And you're thinking, wow, I mean, I am going into the frozen tundra right now, and it's called the slot machines at the Hard Rock Casino. No regulation, Louis.
No.
Not that there was going to be a lot of regulation with DeSantis and that satchel full of cash. Come on, Ronnie. Where'd you get the money for all those commercials? All right, back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Are we spreading lies here on the show? Political lies? It's 8:09.
Maybe.
Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. Since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Oh, Solo Volante will be coming late. Oh, Solo Volante, the Belmont's now a mile and an 8. The finish line is coming up quick. Luca Panici just switched the stick.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. Normally a Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge Day. Dave Gurgles Gurgley, a very late scratch, as often was the case with the Polyman, who would call me occasionally from the parking lot of Hialeah when we were going down there to do the show on the radio for many years, and say, Defo, I can't make it today. I said, but when I was walking in, I saw your car in the parking lot. You were there. It looked like you were reading a racing form. I just can't come inside. And you would have to, talk him out of it. And he would eventually come in. He would come, schlumping in there. And as soon as the light went on, it was great. It was like magic. You had the Polyman, and certainly would have been far more entertaining than Adam Sandler was last night at the Hard Rock. I can't complain. It was a free show. I mean, the production on the thing was good, too. I mean, the sound system in there, fantastic. I'm not sure. People were complaining. I had some musician friends that were there for the show with Eric Clapton and Hall & Oates, and they were saying that they weren't together, but two separate shows, and they were saying the sound system wasn't all that great. But I don't know. I thought it was wonderful last night. I would have to give it to him. It's just not worth $400 or $500 to see Adam Sandler. Well, you didn't have to gamble. Now you sound like my mother, Lubie. You sound like my mother. May she rest in peace. If she knew some of that inheritance money was going up in, literally, smoke signals there at the Hard Rock, she would have been happy about it. That's for sure. All right, I want to dive into some of your territory here, Lubie. Are you on your game today when it comes to traditional, hardcore, topical, typical sports talk? I want to engage or indulge in some of that. Is that okay, people? I'm not sure that everybody's buying in on this. NBA. All right, that's your wheelhouse.
Sure.
I watched a little of the Clippers and the Lakers last night. Now, while LeBron James left the game injured, had to be, I guess, in the second half because I was watching some of the first half of that ball game. That the Lakers are 2-9 comes as what level of surprise to you, Mr. Wojnarowski? Who was the other guy? And I can't believe his name escapes me right now.
Shams is the other guy that's a big deal now.
No, not the insider guy.
Oh, who are you talking about?
The guy on ESPN that we always used to make fun of.
No,
the fat guy. That.
You're Windhorst, Windy.
Windhorst.
And Windhorst, your favorite.
I mean, would Windhorst have been surprised that the Lakers are 2-9 on the season? 2 and F9, Lubie. I mean, that they're only better than like one team, I think, in the Western Conference right now, and that would be the lowly Houston Rockets. How long are they allowed to suck for before Adam Silver conducts an investigation there into Tillman Fertitta, who, as far as we're concerned, not that we carry a grudge there, Raymond Floyd, but is a major league asshole, is he not? I found out he owned one of the restaurants, Del Frisco's or whatever, that I ate at there. And had I known that, I would have never.
Never eaten
I didn't think it was all that great anyway, but I would never go back there. I much prefer the steakhouse at the Circus. But what do you think? How big? 2-9, Lubie. Orlando has more wins.
I mean, I didn't think they'd necessarily be horrendous, but I didn't think they'd be good. Like I thought they would be in that like 9 to 12 range in the West. So I mean, the fact that they're, I guess, even further below is a surprise in that regard. But the roster is not constructed well. LeBron is older. Anthony Davis doesn't stay healthy. I mean, it's that simple. And even when Anthony Davis is healthy now, he's not the same guy. He's not a top 5 player guy anymore. And LeBron puts up great stats, but they're empty. Like they're just, someone has to score and rebound. So LeBron gets the stats, but they're not a good team. And I find it interesting that they're still a topic, because any other team, like we don't talk about the Kings. The Kings have a better record than and I get it. They're the Lakers, LeBron and Anthony Davis, but are they? They're not. Like,
well, it's hard to imagine any team that has LeBron James, at any level of functional play by his standards, which he obviously hasn't, really, kind of fallen apart that badly. I mean, he still, last year, he was an MVP candidate and very likely could have won the MVP of the league. And this year, he's been okay. He's acquitted himself pretty well. It doesn't look like he's all of a sudden a shot fighter or one of those guys that from one year to the next just deteriorates completely. But I mean, any team with LeBron James on it that's 2-9, can you imagine? You imagine you're at the park and you got a guy that's the park equivalent of LeBron James, and you win 2 out of 11 games.
No, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, crazy stuff. All right, Milwaukee's off to a 10-1 start.
Yes.
To what level of surprise in the Mike Lubitz NBA analysis, category is the fact that Cleveland is 8-3 with Donovan Mitchell. Cleveland 8-3.
I thought
they had to lose a couple lately, because I think they were like 6-1.
They were like 6-1. I thought they'd be better, obviously, with Donovan Mitchell. I didn't think they would contend. And look, you're seeing the Warriors struggling out the gate. You're seeing the Heat struggling out the gate. The Clippers are sort of struggling a little bit. Like the Bucks, because of how last year ended, you could tell that they're one of those good teams that was going to come out and punch people in the mouth, because they wanted to prove with, I forget his last name, with Chris, whatever his last name is, Middleton. With Middleton back, see, they're the real champions. So I can see them being good, but most of the really good teams are sort of struggling. So, I mean, the Cavs have something to prove. They added Mitchell. I think they're legit. I think they'll be like a top 6 seed. I don't know if they're going to contend in the East.
All right, final thing is, this is top notch. We could be on like First Take or one of those shows.
Sure can. Well, we're not yet.
We're tearing this apart, man. You're like Kendrick Perkins all of a sudden.
There you go.
All right, what do Detroit, Orlando, and Charlotte have in common? Detroit, Orlando, and Charlotte. Besides the fact that they all stink.
I was going to say they're better than the Heat.
No, they're the only teams worse than the Heat in the Eastern Conference.
Oh, really?
Yeah, good call there. 4-7, Miami. What do you make of that, Mr. Heat?
I don't
Is
know.
it time to fire Spoelstra? Did he need to hear a new voice?
They need a new voice.
Does Riley need to come down from his executive suite?
I don't think that's happening.
Coach the team again in some kind of mutiny?
No? I'm not like panicking or anything, but I mean, we're almost at a quarter of the season and they haven't gotten better. Their defense is not good. Their offense was supposed to be their calling card, and it's not elite. The Oladipo thing is sort of screwed them. Like he was healthy all off season. He was supposed to come in and surprise people with how healthy he was, and now he has a knee issue that may be chronic. So then, if that's the case, then he's never going to be the same. And he was supposed to be a big part of this team. And Kyle Lowry's he's added some representative games, but he's sort of done. And then Jimmy Butler, when
a little weak defensively, also, man.
Well, they're horrible defense. No, they're not good defensively. And that was the thing. They were supposed to be focusing on offense more, so you'd lose defense. But their offense isn't great. Like if you're going to do that, then you have to have a great offense, and they don't. Like Caleb Martin was supposed to grow. All the young guys are supposed to be better. Strus has been solid, but like Vincent hasn't gotten better. Heroes played well, but Bam's been inconsistent. Like I think they'll figure it out, and I think they'll be a top 5 seed, but I don't know if we're going to see them in the conference finals like we did last year.
No, it isn't looking that way. Certainly not trending that way at 4-7, but we shall see if they can put it together. One of those hideous losses took place without Jimmy Butler. The way they lost this game to Portland was almost disgraceful. leaving a guy wide open in the corner for a 3-point shot to put it away. Although all he needed was to go to the stripe and hit one.
Yep.
But with 0 seconds, I mean that was a true buzzer beater, and right through the basket there with nobody. I mean nobody near him. Right? How do you leave that guy wide open if you're a defender? I mean, what's the guy that's dribbling a basketball? He's going to have a tough time getting a shot off of any kind of significance in terms of being on balance and having a big chance to make it. Why not let an off balance dribbler be forced to take the shot? But it definitely covered a guy in a corner.
Yep.
Right. How do you not have somebody out there? That was crazy. Spolster should have get a TO, huh? All right, a little bit disappointing, a little bit deflating there at the start for the Miami Heat because we talked with the great Ethan Scoop Skolnick, who certainly knows the organization and the franchise. Now, has he just been immersed in Heat basketball so long that he now also is part of the culture? Where you're thinking no matter what happens, I mean, this is also, I mean, it's been said in the political arena also. No matter what happens, we're going to ignore the obvious flaws and just say it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
We're going to win.
Exactly.
He was very optimistic about how the loss of P.J. Tucker wasn't really going to have any big impact on the Miami Heat. I don't know that it has been an overwhelming impact, but I mean, he was at least a guy they brought in for some defensive presence.
Yep.
And I mean, every time I'm turning on the TV and watching Heat basketball, which has been in brief segments, the other team is literally, it looks like they're in the old Red Sea, doesn't it? They're just blowing by them for layups. Unchallenged, uncontested. If it is contested, it's at the end when the guy fouls him after the shot. And he sends him to the stripe for a 3-point shot. And Spolster's losing some hair. Have you seen that? This won't be the first coach that went bald coaching this team. Ronnie Rothstein.
Yeah, we know.
Right, had a big Jewish fro when he was first coaching the team, and then by the end of the first season, towards the beginning of the second season, bald as an eagle. All right, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, great place to hang out. The book is out, Swagger. It's drawing rave reviews from many, many places, and we're going to make the arrangements to get down there, and we'll let everybody know. And we'd love to have you come down to Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill and experience what we've been showing you now for the last couple of years, and that is how wonderful this place is at mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway. This weekend, at least according to what I saw in the projected forecast, is going to be spectacular.
It looks beautiful.
And like early next week, I mean, might be a good time to get away before the holidays. Make a little holiday for yourself down in the Keys. Accommodations are phenomenal there. And even if you're not staying on the grounds, which they do have limited accommodations, great place to hang out all day long, right? Leave that little schlepper box of a motel room that you booked because everything else was outrageously priced. And go hang out at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. They love having you at the pool, at the tiki bar, in the sports bar, out there on the beach, enjoying water sports, cocktails, all kinds of fine dining, casual dining, whatever it is that you fancy, they have it for you there. And not in the typical Keys sort of quasi-Bahamas mode of service. They want to make sure you have a good time and they're top notch. I mean, you're getting white glove treatment there in the most casual of atmospheres at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. It's mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway, right there in Key Largo. As soon as you get out of Florida City, make a beeline and then make a right. Boom. If you're going south, if you're coming the other way and you just are in Key West or Isla Mirada or any place else, Marathon. Stop in at the Big Chill there and finish off your Keys vacation in style. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. All right, coming back with more here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz. Once again tomorrow, Degenerate Friday, and that'll feature Mark Lawrence, the Greek. Also be joining us on the program. The Professor, is he in this week? Do we know?
I think so. Yeah, he apologized for last week. He did really well in that Coastal Carolina game, and he was he slept in. So he apologized, and we'll be back for tomorrow's festivities.
He celebrates these kind of victories, and that's also the mark of a true degenerate, but somebody who gets it. Yep. He celebrates these victories like he just won the World Series.
Well, it was one of his bigger plays, and when he has a big play.
Wow. Imagine this, though. I mean, how sophisticated about this stuff do you have to be to have one of your monster plays be Coastal Carolina on a Wednesday night against What was that? Schmenk Tech or
It was
whatever
a
that was.
Thursday. It was Appalachian State.
Appalachian
It
State,
was
yeah.
Thursday night.
It doesn't matter what night it was. It was still, think about it.
I know.
Your 9-star Gold Seal Double Wheels Super Platinum Play of the Century
Yep.
is Coastal Carolina in football.
He knows his stuff.
Which I told you many years ago. I mean, this has to go back over 30 years, maybe even longer. I was friendly with this guy, Billy Mims. I've mentioned him a couple of times. I knew him. He was the head coach of basketball at Barry University, and he was also a sick degenerate. And he ended up coaching in England, professional basketball in England, and then became a big-time commentator there. But he knew more about college basketball. I used to have him on my shows all the time than anybody I'd ever spoken with. He knew everything about it, Lubie. It was fantastic. It was like Dick Hoops Weiss in a young man's body and mind, and very expressive also. And long time ago, man, he mentioned Coastal Carolina as a team to watch out for. I think they had somehow slipped into the NCAA tournament. They ended up winning a game or two. And I thought, wow, that's the first I'd ever heard of him. Now in football, Lubie, are you kidding me? That's your 5-star game of the century?
Yeah, I mean, they were, I guess, getting points and they ended up winning outright.
Yeah. I dominated that ball game. It was fairly entertaining. I would imagine wildly so.
He did well, yes. He enjoyed it.
You were impressed. How many dimes are we talking about there?
I know that he was very confident about that game, and it was a big play for him.
Wow.
He made sure to say that.
Money management, my friend. Put your money where you think your best chance to win is. All right, back with more in a moment here on a Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz. Good job there with your NBA analysis, Lubie.
I haven't watched that much.
Only Hubie Brown, man.
I haven't really watched a lot.
For having seen none of those teams play, except for maybe the occasional.
I just saw the Heat versus the Warriors. That's the only time I've seen them play, and they actually played good in that game.
That was it, yeah. No, I've seen enough Heat basketball to feel very uncomfortable about the way they perform at the defensive end of the floor. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's a long way to go in a season. At one time, they were 11-30, and they went and reversed that and went 30-11 the following year. And that unfortunately influenced Pat Riley for one of the rare times where he went off the rails, Riley, and started rewarding people that like Deion Waiters. Yep. And who was the Johnson guy that had the three-point shot?
James Johnson, Deion Waiter, Kelly Olynyk, and even White still around that time.
I'll say this for Olynyk. I know you're not an Olynyk fan, but he acquits himself as a very useful component.
Yes.
With a lot of teams.
He actually does help teams out. He just frustrated me here.
You hated him like poison, Olynyk. All right, coming back with more here in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:28.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
You can't fake caring. Women can sense this immediately. You don't really care. You didn't really want to do any of this.
We now return to the Defo Show.
A slot player on a mission at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida. Could be a dangerous commodity. Like we say, gambling for two is not like eating Chateaubriand, my friends. All right, welcome back to the show. Well, good to have you guys with us here on this Thursday. We always thank the people of Hialeah Park for supporting the program, and apologize for not having the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. Late scratch, Dave Gurgles Gurgley with his real job.
But and I love Paulie, man, but his late scratches would be literally late scratches. Like you would think he's showing up, you're ready for him, and then as you're there, you'd get a text. Oh, like Gurgles is the opposite. Gurgles lets you know ahead of time and then does everything he can to be there. And then last minute let you know because he was trying to be there and feels bad that he can't.
Yeah.
So I love Paulie, man, but they were a little different in the atmosphere around their late scratch.
I don't think anybody in this lifetime, any shrink, I mean, even going back, you could take all of the greats, right? Sigmund Freud himself would be confused by the Polyman and what level of stress that man was living under. There were the days we were seriously worried about him. I mean, he's still going strong, and I love this man. He's like a longtime brother for me. I mean, one of my favorite people I've ever come across in my life, the Polyman. Just a sweetheart of an individual there. But with his share of, and this is what made it great, was he was able to illuminate. And this is what we're trying to do, I guess, and I think we do okay with that. Illuminate the plight of the degenerate. Realizing you're going to fuck things up. But I don't know that anybody, there was no measurable, way to tangibly, figure out what level of stress this man was living under. And there was that period there. Remember when he was coming to the radio station? He had scored some deal on some advertising, and yet it was presented to him with the obligation that he show up and be on these shows like on a regular basis, right? I think whoever, had gone ahead and agreed to have him do the endorsement said, hey, yeah, but we want you on the shows, Polyman, right? And he was under a particularly, just almost the most oppressive, that commercial for what is it? Some kind of condition where you can't breathe, CP something or whatever.
Oh.
We got the elephant standing on the guy's chest. That might be with an O. I don't know, man.
No, I know. COPD. Isn't it COPD?
Yeah. Good call there, Lubie. Nice one, man. You get your diseases messed up after watching TV for a great period of time. And I'm an avid television viewer, so but it seems like it's all the same stuff, right?
Yes.
Where and all of it has such evil and such dastardly side effects that unless you want to walk around with a shit stain in your pants all the time, you're almost better off dealing with the pain, are you not? Yeah, especially if you're in a crowd like we were last night at the Hard Rock. I've become particularly sensitive, too, to people coughing around me. Have you? If COVID has done anything. Guy used to cough, used to say, I don't even buy into this, that whole God bless you thing. I was like, what is that? So you're on the verge of death? What is it the necessity to have God bless you after a guy goes...
I don't know. I never broke.
I had a kid next to me, not a kid, but a young guy, a young Hispanic guy, and he was very much into the Adam Sandler thing. I think he thought it was highly enjoyable, and it was, like I said, building up to everything but Sandler. And you were waiting. The audience was so willing. So open to just receiving him in the most welcoming of way. That even when he was mumbling his way through the first 40 minutes of the act, it was like, yeah. But this kid was coughing like the whole night. Not. It didn't sound like a diseased COVID cough.
Just the cough doesn't bother. The cough bothered me during the primetime COVID. That's the thing that bothers me is the getting in my space. I've never been claustrophobic. I literally was one of those when I was like 17, we'd go to the all ages and literally like you'd be in a club like this, sweating the minute you walk in, and I never gave a shit. Ever since COVID, when people come over to me, it weirds me
out. Get out of my face, yeah.
It really weirds me out. I'm like, okay. And my job is to be a host and be like, all right, what's going on, brother? But like, no. Over there.
I never liked close talkers. The guy that gets right in your face and goes, hey, Defo, I used to listen to you all the time on the radio. I was like, that's great, man. And I do. I appreciate it. You don't know how humbling it is. It honestly is. To have people telling you, things that you used to say or whatever, or they like this or that about whatever your shows were. And I will say this, that since we haven't been doing the radio show, people became even more appreciative of it than ever.
Yes.
I believe that. Yeah, because they've been
Yes.
subjected to Brady Quinn every day. Is he still even on the show? I don't even know. Man.
Well, that is the most interesting thing. Most national shows, good or bad,
Yeah,
get some publicity somewhere.
yeah.
I've never ever heard anyone ever talk about that show.
You hear what Brady Quinn had to say the other day, man? That was
Never.
great.
Never.
Like nobody's coming up to Brady Quinn 20 years later and saying, yeah, hey, remember when you said this?
No.
That ain't happening, man.
None of
It's a
that.
shame that industry went right into the toilet here. All right, we don't want to disparage what we used to do anymore because we're doing this. And all right, I'm looking at some games here, Lubie, on the college football slate.
Okay.
All right. And the one of the ones of great interest, we mentioned Texas and TCU.
Yes.
Texas, a 7-point favorite at home against Texas Christian, who has been one of the Cinderella teams all year long. They're undefeated. They have been suspect in terms of their opposition. They have been vulnerable to their opposition, as suspect as that may have been. And yet, because they're undefeated and are now like a media darling, people like watching them. They're scoring all the time, rapid pace.
Yeah, Max Duggar, their quarterback.
entertaining.
Is good.
Yeah.
Like, they have a legit quarterback. It's just I can't tell you anyone else on their team.
Yeah. Who the hell are they, man?
I don't know.
All right, that's one of many, many good games. I mean, very curious to see what happens. Lane Kiffin versus
Yes.
the devil himself.
Yes. That's one where Kiffin can get on my nerves a little bit, but I do love how he gets on Saban's nerves.
I will always have a fondness in my heart now for Lane Kiffin. As many disparaging remarks are made about Kiffin and all of the crazy stuff that he does with the co-eds and all the assertions that are out there circulating about his affinity for freshmen.
Fresh water. That's it's like his online name.
The guy's a good-looking cat, and he obviously has had tremendous financial success, being the youngest guy to coach a head coaching position in the NFL.
Yep.
And then what? I mean, he's had any number of just dynamic college jobs.
Tennessee, then USC, then filled forward fast to be Alabama's offensive coordinator, then FAU, and now Ole Miss.
Unbelievable. Yeah, and doing a good job pretty much anywhere. It was remarkable what he did at FAU.
It was.
Was it not?
Yes.
However he did it, I mean, they're not under any is it because the NCAA has no power anymore and they don't look into schools? They're not thinking, hey, well, wouldn't FAU be the kind of team they would put on a 10-year death penalty for buying a kid a cheeseburger?
100%. Look, they just did it at FSU for a guy that paid back the money. For basketball, though, you're not wrong. When it comes to basketball, they still have some power. And football, if you notice, there's no suspension.
Nothing, man. Yeah. Nothing ever. Yeah. No investigations anymore. Every team in the league, in college football, Division I used to be under double secret probation, no?
Yes, 100%.
And with certain teams, it was, open, transparent probation. Because, if the Hurricanes had a guy that passed gas in an elevator, they were under investigation for, violations of a criminal nature. Unbelievable. And all of a sudden, like 14 scholarships would be taken away. Sonny Hirsch would blow a gasket every time something like that happened, too, even when it was more than well-deserved.
I was going to say, it wasn't always fictitious. I mean,
no. I mean, there was a lot of stuff there that we used to kind of gloss over there with Paul D.
Exactly.
Paul, the suspensions, obviously.
I mean, come on.
How victimized do you feel? And are you demanding an apology from
How victimized?
That would be on the Hurricane hotline. Oh, well, what are you going to do? So once in a while, we might have shelled for these teams. All right, so what do you think? Alabama, Ole Miss. Where are you going there? A lot of people like Mississippi in this game. In fact,
getting almost 12. I mean, that's a big line. And
5 out of 7. 5 out of 7 handicappers are picking Mississippi
and
with
Ole
the
Miss
points.
Can run the ball, and which is something they haven't in the past, and they still have a really good quarterback in Jackson Dart, and their defense is improved. And Kiffin, Kiffin loves to go after Saban. So, and it's a weird place because
and his defense is not good. I mean, they're giving up a lot of points. The Alabama Crimson Tide.
Defense. Like Saban, it's interesting because it could go either way, right? Like Saban, Bama's down. Saban wants to prove something, but a lot of the times we've seen with Alabama, like in the bowl games at least, when there's nothing to play for, we've seen them get rocked. Like there have been a few bowl games where when it was not for the playoffs or championship where they lost by 20 because they just don't give a shit. That's what I'm curious about. Is does Saban rally the troops and finish strong and get into the top 5, or does he lose them? Which
I think he loses them. So
be-
does the pigskin prophet, Howie Kasoy, here in the New York
Okay,
Post.
yeah.
Here's the analysis. See
I'm
what you think
ready.
of this.
Yeah.
He says, take Mississippi plus 11 and a hook. All right. That's a very generous allotment of points for
That's a lot.
a team that you think could be competitive. The rationale behind it, the Crimson Tide have played 4 games decided by 4 points or fewer this season, including all 3 matchups against ranked teams. A double-digit spread is even harder to cover without the aura and intimidation that's been attached to Nick Saban's teams for more than a decade.
I mean, it's true. Their defense has struggled in all these matchups. Like Texas A&M's not good, and they should have lost that game.
Yeah,
they should have lost it. Like,
and who was the other team that took them right to the wire? Was it
Texas,
Yeah.
and that was without Ewers. Like the guy Ewers wasn't playing. They went down like their second or third string quarterback, and they should have lost. If the guy doesn't over pursue Bryce Young, Alabama loses that game. Like 100%.
Oh, hey, they've been just highly vulnerable by any standard that we're accustomed to. They're usually blowing these teams out of the water. Games are over in the first quarter, and they got the backups in there by the time you get around to the second half. All right, so that's an interesting ball game. I'll be paying some attention to that.
Yes.
I don't know that I'm going to dedicate a lot of time to watching it, but we'll always be fans of Lane Kiffin ever since we found out from Paul Castronovo, Lubie, that he was a fan of our show.
Yeah.
Which we had on Direct Word, where the very fabled and much more well-known DJ and host of a big music morning show here in South Florida, and been doing it for like 30 years or something.
Yep.
Same place, big FM booming signal, big 105.9. Goes over and says hello to Lane Kiffin. He sees him in the gym.
They work out at the same
Boca Raton.
Yeah, Kevin,
right?
I think still lives in Boca. Like I think
Why
he
not?
still loves Boca. Like he's not trying to live in Oxford,
Mississippi, some big town in Mississippi. Okay, we dance with your dates. I mean, what the hell is going on?
Castronova, used to work.
So Castronova goes over to Lane Kiffin and says, "Hey, I want to introduce myself. I'm Paul Castronova, big shot DJ in town." And he goes, "DJ, you know that guy DeForest and Lubie?"
That's funny. That's great.
I listen to their show every day. You work in the same place?
That's
and I was like, "What?" You're that DeForest guy.
Yeah.
So we'll always be fans of Lane Kiffin, and especially in this spot.
Yep.
So I'd be inclined to take the 11.5, so I'd have a rooting interest in this game. Yeah. And then on top of that, I'm rooting for the outright win and the total mental demolition of one Nick Saban.
Yeah, 3rd loss. Has he had 3 losses since? I know that first year or 2 years he struggled a little. Like I don't think
at
he's
Alabama.
Had
I can't imagine that he had 3 losses because remember he inherited like a really good team, a promising up and coming team from Mike Shula. That was part of the thing that Don Shula despised him for, besides the fact that he was Nick Saban, but and deserving of every amount and every bit of that animosity that Shula spewed in his direction. But when he took over for Mike Shula, everybody thought that was going to be like a breakthrough year that first year under Saban for Mike Shula because he was sort of knocking on the door there a little bit, Lubie. I mean, he was getting there.
He had done decent recruiting. He hadn't done Saban type stuff, but he had done decent recruiting.
He was losing games in bizarre fashion, as I recall.
He just wasn't winning. Like that was a problem.
Yeah. He was a little snake bit when it came to getting wins. It was enough to justify the wrath of and the impatience of the Alabama alumni, and have them go. You know who we need? Nick Saban. To his credit, I mean Saban for all of the derision that was directed in his direction as he was leaving the Miami Dolphins, and wouldn't admit that he was going to become the Alabama Crimson Tide head coach, which he had no idea until the immediate day after the season. Then he said, "Whoa, look at this!
That's magic.
A contract right here."
That was the best. That was magic. That was great.
I don't know. He was in a rough spot there. I didn't necessarily hold that against him so much. It was just a smarmy nature in the way that he treated people, which made it impossible to have any respect for this man.
That's what it was. So his first year, they were 7-6 because he. He did beat them that year. Then the next year, they're 12-2.
And ever since
is 2010, they did lose 3 games. So 2010 was the last time they lost 3 games.
Okay,
That's
let's
not
hope
football.
2022, a dozen years later, it happens again to the schmuck.
Man,
That'd be great.
That'd be amazing.
I would never use, anything that Nick Saban endorsed. I guess I'm in the minority there,
I agree with you.
right? Because
State
what is it,
Farm, State
Geico?
Farm. Is it State Farm? I think it's State
oh,
Farm.
Affleck, yeah.
Oh, it's Affleck, yeah, because the
Yeah.
duck will fight the goat. The duck and the goat hate each other.
And they had to bring a Neon Dion to save his ass because he has no appeal whatsoever in terms of Q rating. Nick Saban. Who's going to listen to Nick Saban besides the recruits? That's it.
That's
Maybe his
honestly-
assistant coaches. Otherwise, nobody wants to hear from this guy.
No,
Does anybody pal around with Nick Saban? Does he hang out with Jimmy Johnson and Belichick? No.
No,
They hate him like poison,
honestly.
right?
Yeah.
Two guys that are very much, have some very close similarities and parallels
Mhm.
to Nick Saban in terms of, coaching style and approach and, the
Yep.
bravado that it takes to be successful in a game. And they can't stand a guy.
Nope.
Wasn't he on Belichick's staff?
Yes. Well, young Nick Saban was on the Browns, and you still don't
Right.
you don't really hear of them intermingling. They would
No,
think
you never hear Belichick mention him at a press conference. You bet that yet again, he doesn't say anything at a press conference.
you're going off of that.
Who mumbled more at press conferences, Shaq or Bill Belichick? Shaq, not so much at press conferences, but whenever there were reporters around his locker room.
The Shaq post game. When I started covering the Heat, Shaq was like the last year with Shaq. Covering him doing an interview was the most. You didn't understand what the fuck he was saying.
Yeah,
you're right there. You're like, what?
he was like Benicio del Toro. Is that the guy's name in The Usual Suspects? Where he just devised, ad-libbed his way into mumbling through the whole thing, and yet you were fascinated by the character. It added a lot that you couldn't understand a word the guy was saying. Maybe we should practice that. We may be there already, Lubie, the way this show is going. That's for sure. All right, looking at the schedule, Tennessee comes back against Missouri. They should kill them, 21-point favorites. LSU, Arkansas, very interesting, Lubie, and unanimous. Everybody is willing to lane 3 with LSU in this ballgame.
Arkansas has fallen off a cliff. Arkansas, the second after the beginning of the year, has sort of just become a disaster.
Why is that line so low? LSU's on the road.
It must be at Arkansas.
It is at Arkansas.
SEC road games. It's a tough environment.
3-point spread. It's of the 7 people, 3 of them have it as one of their best bets. Go ahead, lay the 3 with LSU. Unanimous across the board that game is going in that direction. And then what? You have
the Miami Georgia Tech game is interesting to me because Georgia Tech's not good, and Miami is really licking their wounds right now. Like to me, if FSU wasn't where they were going to fix it, but maybe Georgia Tech, maybe this is the week that they get it. Georgia Tech already fired their coach. They've struggled. They have had quarterback issues with injuries. That would be a place where I would be like, maybe Miami. Maybe Miami figures it out this week. Their defense has actually been pretty good outside of last week.
I'm going to give you my overwhelming underdog parlay in college football here. Okay. I'm stealing this from this Howie Kasoy here, but and our good friend Jim Sony, I think, is fascinated by gigantic point spreads. Okay. Which way would you go when you're getting like 40 points? Mm-hmm. So you have Indiana getting 39.5 from Ohio State. What do you think about that? At what point do the Buckeyes call the dog zone? Are you willing to go ahead and take 39 and a hook? If somehow, and you know how these games start. Indiana starts out, and they get like a mysterious streak of lucky plays, and they get into field goal range, and the guy boots a line drive that just gets over the hands of the oncoming defensive line, and somehow squibs its way through the uprights, and it's 3-0 Indiana, and you're thinking, I'm up 42 and a hook, because you need that bogus score that starts the game for the underdog in those kind of situations. And now they're not going to score again. At the rest of the game, it's going to be all Ohio State.
That's the problem.
So when do they call it off? I mean, and you're sitting there at the end of the game going, my God, if they score again, I'm fucked.
It's something I've learned from the professor, because a lot of the times nowadays you'll see his handicapping shows handicap the stupidest shit. Yeah. Like you'll have the backup point guard under 3 assists. And it's like, why would I give a shit about
the prop bets are going to bury America.
So, but he uses this line like, "Why would I want to watch the Sacramento Kings to see what their backup point guard does?" So that's my problem is with a bet like that, you now either have to watch or keep an eye on, like you with FIU and La Tech.
Yes.
I now keep an eye on Indiana, Ohio State. Like, do I really want to keep an eye on Indiana, Ohio State?
I don't, but I mean, 39 and a hook there. Your temptation is to say that's an awful lot of points to swallow if you're Ohio State.
And
All right,
Andy's
and Colorado, USC. Colorado's getting 34.5
USC's defense isn't good. You actually
from
brought
a
it up the other day.
defenseless USC team.
You brought it the other day, and someone was raging. 'cause
They're horrible.
They're rated higher than Oregon right now, and I don't get
Yeah.
it. Oregon's been dominant on both sides. Like, their defense sucks, and the Cal's not good, and they almost lost that game. Like,
Yes.
yeah, that's an interesting spread. I mean, Colorado's been horrendous, but
I mean, it's a lot of points because there's an example of a game where Colorado could easily put up 10 points. All right. So does USC, if they're up 35-10 late in the ball game, do they continue to press to go ahead and cover the spread? That's what you're counting on. You're hoping that the underdog in this spot can score a couple of times. If they get 2 field goals, you're feeling pretty good about yourself.
because that's the thing is, a team like Ohio State. Look, it's what you saw with FSU last week. Once you're up big as a fourth, you got to put your backups in. You just sort of have to. And if you're Ohio State in the third quarter, but until then, you're going. So they can score 52 points and a half. So that's your thing is you need like 2 scores. If you can get 2 scores from that team, then you have a nice friggin' cushion that you should cover. It may, like Andy says, it may come down to the wire.
No, they do come down to the wire. All of these games, it's crazy, especially with gigantic point spreads. It's almost all. Well, once in a while, the other team is playing well enough, and the heavy favorite is kind of pissing around. You're looking at a game where you're getting 35, and the score is 27-10.
Yeah.
In the third quarter, and you're thinking, okay, well, we know who's going to win the game, but it's not going to be the bludgeoning that everybody, that had gone ahead and laid the points would have anticipated. Those are weird propositions to been into. You're right, though. I mean, I'm surprised Biden hasn't factored this in about the price of gasoline proposition bets, which I think is contributing to inflation and the devaluation of the dollar. Because every day they list a whole bunch of them, right? And I'm like, who bets this shit?
It's like the random
Whether McNabb is going to have more than 62 and a half, when he was running the football or whatever. And now you have Jalen Hurts, let's say.
Yeah,
Whether he's going to have 62 and a half yards of rushing in a game. And you're like, over, under. I don't know. What the hell? I mean, how many times is this cat going to run the ball? He takes off. You figure 1. He breaks a couple of tackles there and, runs for 30 yards. Okay. You still need 35 more yards or whatever.
Yep.
Of course, Fields was a good bet on that proposition. Whatever the over-under was there, it had to be eclipsed when he gained 173 yards from the quarterback position against the Miami Dolphins' vaunted defense. Right, with their new acquisition, right? Bradley Chubb is out there. Well, he's a pass rusher, but
he's supposed to help. We'll see.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah, those bets are like weird. It's like I wouldn't even know. I didn't even know they're still playing. It's always a guy that I didn't know was still in the league.
Yes.
Like, that guy's still in the league. Like, why are you monitoring that?
Like I said, you put $5 on a game, and it adds overwhelming intrigue.
Yes.
In terms of your desire to follow the most minute point about the ball game. All of a sudden, you're making coaching decisions long before the head coach realizes that it's time for him to think something through.
Oh, God.
And you're cursing and yelling and screaming, and as I said, it brings out the worst in all of your character.
Yep.
$5 stinking bucks. It doesn't matter. I mean, I find that myself. Even with a mind bet.
I was going to say, I've seen you get mad at mind bets.
Mind bets? Like, I don't have any money on this. Maybe I'm getting punchy like Adam Sandler was last night. I mean, what's funny is that a guy could persist in front of 2,500 people to do a show that you're looking at and you're going, this show sucks. But he's just plowing right through it as if it was great. And the people, I guess, I don't know.
They like it. No, people like it. I'm telling you.
They love it. They absolutely, they were loving it. The guy's mumbling and, I'll say, I mean, whatever he did, it seemed like it wasn't like it was just haphazardly done.
Yeah.
He had a lot of coordinated production and different things with the songs, the parody songs, but weak all the way. All right. As maybe you thought we were today. And we do apologize once again for not having a Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. Our Believe podcast, the great Brandon Lang, always a hoot. Over under on, here's a prop bet. Over under on Tranny mention. I'm going to go
That's
9.5 seconds.
Oh, yeah, when? Because I can't tell you how many. When? Yeah,
9.5 seconds in. Within 9.5. Over under.
I would say over because last week he hammered it. Like I've noticed, the weeks he goes really after it, the next week he'll be slow. Because we've had weeks where he didn't mention it till the 20-minute mark. So I would say I would go over. I'll go over this week.
It's always great, though, and great insight. 6-1-1 last week on his selections. Great. I mean, they really, and you want to hear a guy, if he does give you logic, if you agree with that logic, then, okay, go ahead and make the play maybe.
Yep.
But if you think the guy is full of shit, or maybe he's convinced you that your opinion is not necessarily the right one, maybe you lay out of the game. That's possible.
Exactly.
But, there's nothing like being emboldened by some handicapper that you have great respect for. And he outlines a game and you say, wow, that's exactly the way I see it, man. But I didn't know about the fact that they were like 17-1 against the spread all time in situations where they're coming out of a loss when there was a full moon and people were eating a lot of blue cheese. It's great. What?
That's Mark Lawrence. That Mark Lawrence will go into the trend that it's like, wow, good for you. You knew what.
But what I like about Lang is he incorporates a lot of these different elements into his handicapping theories, including gut instinct. And you know what? The best handicapping method is what do you see? If you saw Florida State and Miami, you had to go with Florida State in that game, laying any amount of points. I know it's after the fact, easy to say, but wow, the Hurricanes have looked horrible all year long, even in victory. And Florida State's made a representative showing in virtually every game. You could have made a case that they could have. And they beat LSU, right? Open the season.
Yes, they did beat LSU. Well, actually, they dominated LSU and gave up where they almost lost, but they did win. They did beat LSU, who's now 7th in the country.
All right. We have to run. Pickleball, big on the mind of Jim Sarnia. I think the game blows. I really do. I don't want to watch celebrity pickleball. I don't want to see pickleball played at the park. I mean, if you're playing it and you're enjoying it, great.
You can play it. My dad loves it. It's like the video game. Where have all these video games gone that were on TV? Away. Same thing. It's a fact. I mean, I think it's something that won't go away as
no. People, it's a great participation sport for a lot of people, and I'm all for that.
That's fine. Go for it.
The game itself, I mean, it sucks. The ball doesn't even come off the ground. All right. I mean, why not just play bocce? All right. We'll see you tomorrow. Degenerate Friday. Later on, Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, and then Brandon Lang on our Believe podcast. That'll be posted BLEAV Networks at about 11 o'clock this morning. After hours, it's called with Defo and Lubie, and I think you're going to love it if you haven't tuned in before. You're familiar with Lang from being on these shows with us over the years, and he is a hoot. And we will see you later on with Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, 12 o'clock today, right here on South Florida Live. As we leave you now that it's 8:58.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.